The first time heroin, that drug, was pushed into my vein, a hand reached for me, and I reached for it. I felt such peace, such comfort, such love, such a warmth. I was just a grain of sand in the hourglass. The only way to get there I was. Heroin was to make money to get it. Slow, gradual selling yourself, descent into the street. What are you looking at? Well, what are you looking at?
Willing and able.
In the beginning, the other women of the street were terrifying to me. They were terrifying to me because they were so... You have to remember there's only so much business to go around. Aggressive. I learned the rules. I became one of them. I became a fierce woman too.
The clip is actually a bit of an example of that. Creative recycling, I have to be very good at that. This woman, her name is Elizabeth Hudson, that you heard. This was the first one, I think. Yes, the prostitute woman. The original interviews were run in a naturalistic way with just her talking and perhaps some other elements. I can't quite remember, but certainly her conversation as recorded was very naturalistically presented. I listened to that and I thought, yeah, it's fine. But when I came to try to do other things with it, because I have to recycle things quite often, it wasn't just that. I actually felt there were a lot of missed opportunities in the original presentation of her story, which I tried to bring out in my own way by the style that you heard. I don't know how to, this is such a big subject, but what to say.
What's a story?
What's a story?
What's a story? And what's a
oh Lordy, what's a story?
And how do you, once you have a story, how do you approach it?
All right, let me read my notes.
Read your notes.
Because that's easier, and you can circulate.
Okay.
But just to go back quickly to that, I had a long love affair for 3 years or so with voice against voice, inner voice, outer voice. What is the mental balloon? What's in our mental balloons that we carry around all the time? We all have this inner dialogue all the time, and we hide so much from everybody, even ourselves. So part of the job there was, it was a created structuring. Yes, the voices were not recorded like that. The woman wasn't obviously commenting on herself, but it was an attempt to get below her surface talk. And I stripped out everything in that original material that didn't really, to my mind, create an image or give a powerful thought. It was very, very rigorously edited. And then the treatment you heard was applied after that to try and create a sort of mood, really, of the street, which was justified, I think, by what she was saying. I mean, it's hard to talk about these things, you can't do it. Okay, so, to your question, Linda. Living out loud, the criteria are, your story, which means something about you, or your story to tell, which means a story that really only you can bring to the program. Some exceptions, but generally speaking, that's the way it works. If I, as a professional journalist, radio producer, whatever you want to call it, could go and do the story, it's probably not for Living Out Loud. It's for another show. Again, not totally rigorously applied, but that's basically it. Canadian stories, I don't have a travel budget for anything much. Certainly not out of the country, although that's not true. I've done something like that. We all could. Treatment. No predetermined treatment at all. I really don't I don't approach a story with a treatment in mind. I listen as best I can to the material and try to figure out a treatment that, to me, would liberate what the story has to offer. Which means it can be anything from the most investigative journalistic approach to an impressionistic approach, could be anything, and often various different approaches and styles are incorporated in the same documentary. How much time have I got?
It's a little past 1:45, so
What-
maybe.
give me 3 minutes. Give me how many minutes?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay.
Everything that Steve's talking about.
A quick
he's
anecdote.
kindly-
People love to hear about mistakes, and mistakes are very revealing. When I worked at the very beginning of my so-called career, I was at the BBC in London, and a woman brought a story to us. Actually, she was from Newfoundland, believe it or not, and I worked for the overseas services. The script began. She was doing a piece on the, God help me, the Chelsea Flower Festival. Anyway, it was a standard assignment. Go and talk to people at the flower stalls and find out, blah, blah, blah. And I was assigned as a young kid to vet her. She wasn't experienced, so I was supposed to listen to this and critique it for her. And one of the bits of script said, so I spoke to Mrs. Jones about her roses. And the clip began, Mrs. Smith actually. She'd made a mistake. And the brilliance of that for me is I never forget it. That happened decades ago. We heard the mistake. It was a surprise. She left it in, and we left it in. We did not edit that out and say, oh no, you must write the script differently. You get the picture. Second error, which is one of mine, which I remember so well because the sweat coming out of my forehead is still very, very much in my memory. Assigned, this is way back also, to be the first first little documentary they sent me out to do. Go and do a quick profile on this rock musician who's got a new hit single, blah, 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 standard assignment. So I went off on a taxi to this guy's place in London, and he had he had a bit of a studio around him, and I did this sort of interview for 10 minutes with him, just talking about what he was doing, that word about is a killer. And I got back and I had about 15 minutes of tape, and I listened to it when I got back and I thought, what the hell, there is nothing here. There's no here. It's all about the same type of stuff. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do?
You're going to
So
introduce seagulls.
there's a point to this, believe me. And I didn't want to tell anything to the senior producer who'd assigned me because I thought, geez, I was on a temporary 3-month contract. So I had to figure it out for myself, and I remember that I was thinking about, what have I done wrong? What's wrong here? And I suddenly, the penny dropped. You didn't get him to do anything. We didn't hear what he was doing. We were just talked about something. And I thought, now what am I going to do? And then another penny dropped. I have to go back. I have to go back now. Yes. So I went back to the guy and I got, can you just, simple stuff, get him doing something. Action in front of the microphone. Same as the camera. The TV people, action in front of the camera is usually the most powerful piece of stuff. Action in front of the microphone delivers pictures for the mind to latch onto. What I had recorded in the first session with him had no imagery at all, hardly, not worth putting on the radio. So that was a very big learning thing for me. Action generates pictures, generates impact. So there you go.
So Steve,
I got a lot more, but there's notes here if you want to circulate this crap.
Steve has notes, which we will circulate and we'll invite
I'm going to say one last thing. All we have is sound. All we have is sound. Sound is not some mystical thing you can lay on and say, oh, I don't think I'll put, sorry Karen, I'm not in the, do I have enough sound in my piece? No, sound is all we have, whether it's speech, whether it's nonverbal, whether it's whatever it is, that's all we have to offer is sound, some speech.